Hi, I want to take a moment to share with you a structure that you can use in your student-driven learning environment, and that is the Content Facilitation Grid. The Content Facilitation Grid is something that you can use in order to gather and analyze your formative assessment data. Throughout this video, you will see two different grids being used. This one will be a high school example, and then also one for an elementary school example. You'll notice the difference being that for high school, it's based on one course. Elementary might have multiple courses. So let's talk about the 5 steps you need to go about starting the use of your content facilitation grid. First, you'll want to design it, laying out your standards, the students' names down the left side, what standards you're going to do across a week. It's a little bit more manageable when you do it into weekly chunks. Next, you want to think about how you're going to carry it. And really the purpose is to have it with you throughout the day for elementary or throughout a particular class period. Next, you're going to use it to record information that you glean from student conversations and questions that you ask. We'll talk about later how you go about this recording. Next, you want to analyze. Analyze the data that you're receiving from students. And last, and most important, you want to act accordingly in order to modify your instructional plan based on what you have recorded and what you have started to analyze. So whenever you start the design, you really want to think about, well, what are my column headings? What, over the course of this week, am I going to have my students engaged in? So in this particular elementary example, that's for about 4th and 5th grade, what is the science, the English language arts, the math, what's going to be covered? What is it that I'm really wanting students to tackle? And once you really think about that, you then want to look and see all of the different standards. And so now we're looking back at our high school example to make sure that they are very succinct in how you're placing them in each column. We know that sometimes standards can be very layered and have multiple levels to them. So in your facilitation grid, you want to make sure that you've started to deconstruct that. So that way it's very specific what you're looking at for your students. Now you want to think about in your design how you're also going to carry it around. So whether you're going to create it digitally, but then you want to print it in order to mark it up, or you want to keep that digital copy because you carry around your computer or your tablet. Whichever way you want to think about how, when you're moving around your classroom environment, how you're really going to make sure this is with you throughout the day. Now we're going to talk a little bit about how you're going to record on your grid. You want to think of a structure and some codes and a coding system that's really going to work for you to know when you look at the grid where each of your students are across each of the standards. Here are some that we use. First, thinking about M being for mastery. So your students who have gotten the content. A level up from that is peer tutor, where we use PT, meaning students have not only mastered, but they're now able to explain to a peer. Homework is right below mastery, I would say, in which case students need just a little bit more practice or an application or some more learning, maybe an additional assignment that they can do for homework that's going to help them achieve that level of mastery. And then lastly, we have small group mini lesson, or ML for short, for students who need significant help, where they need to come together with maybe some other students that need some assistance in order to dig more into that particular skill. Now, when you now have this recording system in place, you want to think about how you're being intentional in your role as a facilitator, how you are connecting with students one-on-one, in pairs, or even in a small group. So first, you want to take time to do some observations about what's going on, how kids are working, where they're working, what they're doing exactly. And then from there, really take the time to listen to conversations. When you pull up a chair, thinking about, well, what are they saying? What am I hearing? How is it connecting to the learning that they are doing or sharing? From there, you can either ask questions for explanation for them to maybe further explain what they are saying, or even asking students a direct question about the standard or skill that's being addressed, whether they're doing a discussion or a lab or just doing a learning activity, really thinking about how you're getting to the root of their level of understanding. Note that for this video, mine looks very clean and very crisp. Yours could end up looking a little something like this, where yours is marked up because you would imagine, right? You're in a classroom. Students might have needed the mini lesson, but that next day they have a much better understanding. So you shifted them up to homework, or now they're up at mastery. So I would expect for there to be different markings or annotations on your grid because it is an evolving document. You are on it all the time throughout the week, really collecting data. And there's two ways looking at that collection of data that you can really start to analyze. First, thinking about per student. Where is each kid in my class in regards to the standards and things that we have done in this particular week? It's a great insight that you can always bring to a parent-teacher conference as well. Also, I can look at standards or skills looking at the columns. So now I'm looking at how have I supported students in this instance at supporting details. Looking down that particular column, do I have a lot of mastery? Are there a lot of different small groups? Which helps me then to maybe modify, right, my next instructional activities. And so when I dig deep at looking at something that I might need to dig into more, this might lead me then to a structure that we have that's called a scaffold for learning. And really it's just the point where I'm now going to go back to my unit planning, thinking about, based on the data I've received, what other learning activities might I need to put into place? What other practice or application experiences do I need to put into place for my students in order to move that column up from students needing different homework and mini lesson help to making sure everyone has mastered or gone above mastery of that particular skill. So the content facilitation grid is complemented by our facilitation roadmap and facilitation questions. So do check out the portal for these additional resources as well. And of course, you can learn more by looking at any of the 6 books by Dr. Nancy Sula, looking at student-driven instruction and really how we become facilitators of learning and thinking about the structures that support us as educators to be those classroom facilitators. Thanks, and I appreciate you watching.